Okay, now I have a great video for you today, but before we get into it, this breaking news just in to the YouTube news desk. Roll it. Amazing, I know. Anyway, up today, we're going to do a schedule preview for the Tennessee Vols. That's right, we're going to take a look at their 2021 schedule. We're going to try to compare it to the 2020 schedule, although that's been hard to do this year because last year's schedules were so different compared to what we normally see in a schedule. Tennessee, an SEC team, they played 10 conference games and no non-con games, as opposed to a normal schedule like you'll see this year in 2021, 8 conference games and 4 non-con games. But here we go, the schedule preview 2021 for everybody's favorite punching bag in the SEC, the Voltard. All right, now everybody can stop crying that I'm a Georgia fan. Would you type, this guy's a Georgia fan? Quit crying on my channel about me being a Georgia fan. Go to this guy's channel and cry about him being a Texas fan. D4 Sports has been doing some amazing work lately. He's been around YouTube for a while in the comment section and showing up on other people's streams and channels and things like that, but he recently started his own channel, and he's really putting a lot of time, effort, and energy into what he's doing over there, and I want you guys to check it out. I'm going to post a link to his YouTube channel in the description of this video and the pinned comment of this video. Consider D4 a friend. You guys do me a favor. Go check out his channel and sub him up. All right, how bad of a season do you have to have last year in 2020 to get your coach fired in a pandemic year? Exactly how bad do you have to be? How about 3-7? Yeah, that'll do it. Jeremy Pruitt out as coach of Tennessee. This is a 3 or 4 year cycle at Tennessee now, going back 15 years to FULMER's firing at Tennessee. They go through coaches like underwear. It's just insane. Jeremy Pruitt out, Josh Heupel in. What led up to the Jeremy Pruitt firing? A couple of things. Clearly, the NCAA issues that are going on with some payments, I guess, to certain recruits. There was putting money in McDonald's bags. I mean, we've been over this a bunch of times, you guys know, but the NCAA has done crawled up in Knoxville with a magnifying glass. Probably not going to end well. That was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back with the Tennessee administration and Jeremy Pruitt. They also got rid of FULMER, bring in Josh Heupel, but they did go 3-7 last year briefly. Here's their schedule. We'll just run through it real quick and take a look at what they did. They started things off at South Carolina and won 31-27. Now, South Carolina was not a great team, but neither is Tennessee. And playing at South Carolina, is it the hardest place to play in the SEC? Probably not, but it's definitely not the easiest. That's a tough place to play. That looked like a pretty good win at the time. The problem was that was week 1 of the SEC. We didn't know anything about South Carolina or anything about Tennessee. So you watch that game, wow, it was a great game. Tennessee won. Maybe this, something different here. This looks like a game that they normally lose. They go out and win it 31-27. They follow that up with a huge win over Missouri. What ended up being a pretty good Missouri team, 35-12, and the Tennessee fans were out in full force. They were everywhere. They were in the comment section here. They were everywhere on Twitter, Facebook. If you went to Publix, you seen random idiots wearing Tennessee hats, whatever the case. They were absolutely everywhere. This is year, we're back. The whole thing that we've heard over and over and over and over and over again for what seems like forever. And then the wheels just fell completely off after that. Starting with a trip on the road to Georgia. They took a beating, 44-21. They followed that up with another beating to Kentucky. If you want to single out one game that probably cost Pruitt his job, forget the NCAA sanction stuff, it's this Kentucky loss. 34-7 at home to Kentucky. That's hard to understand. Tennessee has had some bad teams, and that's an understatement over the last 15 years. In fact, they've had some historically bad years by Tennessee standards. Only one time during that period, though, did they lose to Kentucky. Even in Tennessee's worst years lately, they have still found a way somehow to beat Kentucky. Not last year, and it wasn't close. And this was the game where it looked like a lot of the Tennessee players kind of gave up in this game. It was just an awful game all the way around. It didn't get any better because the following week, they had to play Alabama. And Alabama put yet another beating on them. We're up to, 15, 16 in a row, something like that now that Alabama has beat Tennessee. 48-17 was the score of that one. They go on the road to Arkansas, the team that everybody thought would be the worst team in the league heading into the season. Turns out that wasn't necessarily the case. Lost on the road at Arkansas 24-13, and the game wasn't even really competitive. On the road at Auburn, lost 30-17. At home against Florida, lost 31-19. You did get a win over Vandy, and that's no gimme because I think they've beat you 3 out of the last 6, but you whooped them 42-17. They had half a team. They had a female field goal kicker that scored points on you. First female to score points in a Power 5 game ever, scored against Tennessee. So make sure you put that in your history books. And then you lost final game of the season. This was a makeup game. This game was supposed to be played earlier in the season. It was postponed, played at the end of the season, and you lost to Texas A&M at home, 34-13, winding up, of course, with the 3-7 record. And then about a month and a half later, the stuff started to come out about the allegations of some recruiting issues, some money being passed around in McDonald's bags, some other things. And Jeremy Pruitt was let go, and Josh Heupel was brought in. Phil Fulmer was let go, and a new AD was brought in. I forget the AD's name, but he was the AD from Central Florida, same place Josh Heupel came from. So you got the coach and your AD from Central Florida. All right, that's 2020. Let's take a look now at 2021 and see if Tennessee can find a way to improve on this record. All right, like I said, thank God we're back to, or at least it looks like we're going to be back to normal seasons in college football this year. 12 games. In the case of the SEC, they'll play 8 conference games, 4 non-con games. Cross our fingers and hope that that's what happens. You start things off September 4th, week 1, at home, non-con game against Bowling Green. You got to win this one. There's a handful of games on Tennessee's schedule that, in my opinion, are must-win games. Now, they're mostly against bad teams. You got to start beating bad teams. You got to consistently beat the bad teams before you start trying to worry about doing things like beating Florida, Georgia, or Alabama, or winning the East or the SEC or anything like that. You have to start consistently beating the bad teams. Bowling Green, while there are a lot worse group of 5 teams than Bowling Green, they shouldn't be competing with Tennessee. You should win this game. Week 2, at home, you play an ACC team, so a Power 5 non-con game here against the Pitt Panthers. Pitt Panthers are not that impressive to me. They're in the ACC. They perennially win 6 or 7 games. Every once in a while, they might have an outlying year where they win 8 or 9. They're not a good team. As bad as Tennessee has been, I still think they're better than Pitt. I don't know what the line will be on this game. If I had to guess right now, Tennessee might actually be a small favorite in this game. It's definitely not a gimme, though. I mean, these are games we've seen Tennessee lose over and over and over and over and over again over the last 12 or 15 years. I mean, BYU, Georgia State. I mean, the list just goes on and on. But this isn't a guaranteed win. It's not a guaranteed loss either. I think this is one that Tennessee can win. I think it's important for Tennessee to start not only 2-0, but 3-0 when you look at this next opponent, Tennessee Tech at home. So you get 3 straight home games against 3 teams that, in my opinion, Tennessee should beat. Pitt is not a terrible team, and if they happen to have one of those years where they're a little bit better than what we think, maybe they pull off a win in Knoxville. But Tennessee, I think, needs to start the season 3-0. And I think it's possible. Will they? I don't know. Of course, this isn't a prediction video. I'll do my predictions starting in June. I give you 50 or 60 teams, win-loss record for all 50 or 60 teams, which games they'll win, which games they'll lose. Those will start in June. This kind of just an early look here at some of these schedules. Then you kick off your SEC schedule. So you start things out at home, 3 non-con games in a row at home. Then you go on the road, first SEC game. This is a traditional type spot on the schedule here at Florida. Florida lost a ton of offense last year. By a ton, I mean almost all of it. Of course, they lost Kyle Trask, but they lost a whole host of wide receivers, and, of course, Kyle Pitts at tight end. Their defense was not very good last year. Dan Mullen opted to keep Grantham, the defensive coordinator, despite Florida fans really wanting him gone, decided to keep him. We'll see. Florida's going to have 2 or 3 weeks to sort of figure themselves out offensively before this game is played. If Florida gets it figured out offensively, it would be hard to pick Tennessee in this game just because of recent history. I mean, I think Tennessee has beat them once in the last 20 years or something like that. Seems like anyway. But it's possible. Tennessee fans and Florida fans, I'm not saying this. I'm just saying it's possible Tennessee finds a way to win that game. If Florida's a little bit worse than what people think they will be, and Tennessee's a lot better than what people think they will be, it's possible. If Florida's offense is really struggling, it's possible. You won't be favored. Florida will be probably a double-digit favorite in this game. I would not predict Tennessee to win this game at this point, but It's possible. It's like the line from Dumb and Dumber when he's like, what are my chances to date you? And the girl's like, 1 in a million? And the guy goes, so you're telling me there's a chance? There's a chance. Then you go on the road at Missouri. I don't know. I actually think you might have a better chance against Florida this year than you do against Missouri. I'm high on Missouri, to be fair, higher than most people. I was impressed with what I saw out of them last year. They get a lot back. They're year 2 of a coaching staff now with no offseason last year, full offseason this year. I think Missouri has the chance to be the second best team in the East this year. I don't think this is a gimme for Tennessee. In fact, I think Missouri is a better team than Tennessee. Florida is too. So first 3 games, all winnable. The next 2 games, I have a feeling you'll be a significant underdog. South Carolina at home. One of the best games of the season last year, regular season anyway, within the SEC. It was a great game. You guys won it 31-27, I think it was. They come to your place this year. This is one of the games I was talking about earlier when I said you got to start beating the bad teams. Bowling Green is bad. Pitt is bad. Tennessee Tech is bad. South Carolina is bad. You've got to start winning these games. Will you? I don't know. Can you? I don't know. But that's when you got to win at home against a South Carolina team with a brand new coaching staff. I know you got a new coaching staff too, but brand new coaching staff at South Carolina. Not a whole lot of talent, not a lot to work with, not a lot coming back, not a lot to look forward to. You got to find a way to win that one. At home against Ole Miss. Again, I think this is an unlikely win for Tennessee. I'll give an official prediction later in the summer, but this is a game where I think Ole Miss will be favored, even though it's a home game for Tennessee. Lane Kiffin's offense, we saw last year, is capable of running up and down the field against anybody they play. They put up a ton of points and yards against even Alabama. That's a tough spot. So Florida's schedule, this is why I was saying I think you need to start out 3-0, because if you beat Bowling Green, Pitt, and Tennessee, and then you're sitting there staring at Florida on the road, Missouri on the road, South Carolina at home, Ole Miss at home, I can see a scenario where you're 3-0 and then 4-3, because those are 3 tough games: Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, and then at Alabama. So I can see 4-4. I could see 4-4 heading into your bye week. You're not beating Alabama, so 4-4. I could see 6-2. I mean, I hate to give Tennessee fans hope because they're so annoying when they have any, but I can see 6-2 there if everything went right. Bye week after the Bama game, then you come out of that and play on the road at Kentucky. Another must-win game. You cannot lose a second year in a row to Kentucky. I don't want to hear about NCAA sanctions. I don't want to hear about a new coaching staff. I don't want to hear about the fact that you had 25 players transfer out. I don't want to hear about any of that. You cannot be losing these games. You can't. Again, all this yapping about beating Florida and Georgia and Bama and competing for the East, those are great goals to have. Those are long-term goals for you, Vol man. Short-term goal, stop losing to Kentucky. Beat South Carolina again. Go 3-0 in that crappy non-con. Those are short-term, reachable goals. Stop talking about Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. None of that's happening. Just stop it. At Kentucky. Then we got Georgia, of course, later in the schedule than it used to be. There's been some rearranging of the schedule within the SEC due to Auburn's nonstop crying. The SEC finally gave in and moved the Georgia-Auburn game up earlier into the season, which knocked the Georgia-Tennessee game back later in the season. This game used to be played around the first couple of weeks of October. Now here we are playing it the second week of November. But you get Georgia at home. Georgia's loaded. They're a top 5 team. I think this is probably their best shot heading into a season to win a national title in a long, long time. Not saying they will. I'm just saying they've got a really, really good team. Georgia will be a significant favorite even on the road in that game. Then you get your final non-con game of the year, which is South Alabama. You got to win it. I think I would pick you to win that game. You'll be, I would think, a favorite in that game no matter what your record is at that point. And then you close the season out with in-state rival Vandy. They had your number a few years back. They had beat you a couple of years in a row, and I think beat you 3 out of 5 or something at one point. You've sort of started to turn that back around. Now they're not a very good team. They've got a new coaching staff after getting rid of Derek Mason. Again, you get them at home. That is a must-win game. These must-win games, when I say must-win for credibility reasons, must-win for confidence reasons, and must-win if you got any hope of making a bowl game this year. You look at some of these games here at Florida. I mean, let's face it. Could you win? Yes, but you'll be a significant underdog. At Missouri, could you win? Yes, but you'll be a significant underdog. Ole Miss, I don't think you win. At Alabama, I don't think you win. Georgia, I don't think you win. I mean, there's 3 or 4 almost guaranteed losses on this schedule. So that only gives you a wiggle room of 1 or 2 losses before you lose out on bowl eligibility, which you may lose out on anyway due to NCAA sanctions. But point is, anything over 6 wins this season, I think, would be considered a win for Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Can he get it? I don't know. Actually, I do know. I'll let you know in June when I do the preview videos what Tennessee's record will actually be and who they'll beat and who they'll lose to. But this is an interesting schedule here. I mean, obviously, you've got a stretch of tough games when you look at Florida, at Mizzou, home against South Carolina, home against Ole Miss, and at Alabama. That is a tough 5-game stretch right there. At Florida and at Mizzou, both those teams will be in the top 25. South Carolina, that's the must-win game there. Ole Miss, I think, will be in the top 25 and will most likely beat you. And then, of course, at Alabama will be 1 or 2 or whatever they are at that point in the season. That's a tough 5 games there. If you win 2 of those games, honestly, I would be pretty impressed. I'm not going to lie. If you went 2 and 3 in that 5-game stretch, I'd be pretty impressed. And then, of course, you got the Georgia game at Kentucky. You got to find a way to win that one. So there you go. That's the 2021 Tennessee schedule. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you want to go ahead and try to take a guess at what their record is going to be, feel free to let me know down below. I'm curious to know. And again, I'll do all my prediction videos game by game. I'll give you a winner and a loser for each of these games when I do my prediction videos starting in June. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video today. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed it, share it somewhere, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, go to your neighbor's house, knock on their door, whatever the case. Subscribe if you're not already. And I really appreciate you watching. Have a good morning.